Welcome to this Moving Panels One Shot. Let's have a nerdy little conversation. And today, we're just going to talk about upcoming stuff and the rumors and theories and our own speculations of what's coming. And joining me today to talk about this from the 80s Flick Flashback podcast, it's Tim Williams. How are you, Tim?
I'm good. I'm very good. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm Batman, because I have to have my 80s reference whenever you introduce me. So it's an 80s DC comic book reference.
And we'll talk about some DC stuff, but there's a couple of Marvel things I want to talk about first. So in the next few weeks, we are going to get Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
So excited.
And pretty much the beginning of Phase 5, the introduction of Kang the Conqueror, and then have you seen the new trailer?
I have, yes.
Did you catch that it's Yellow Jacket that is MODOK now?
I don't know if I don't know if I caught it the first time, but I think I saw something where somebody referenced it, and I was like, oh, I missed it when I saw it the first time. I was just, so much to take in the trailers anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, and this shot, because they show him with, I guess, full armor, like he's got a mask, but then there's another quick shot where the mask isn't there, and you see that it is Cross.
Okay.
From the first Ant-Man movie.
Yeah.
So I guess you're supposed to believe that when he was getting smushed together, that he was actually getting sent to the quantum realm.
That makes sense. That's a good way to tie it into the first movie for sure.
Yeah, and I guess his body's now disproportionate, so his head's huge compared to the rest of his body, and he becomes MODOK.
That makes sense.
So interesting little twist, but there is a theory. And that's one of the things I want to talk about. There is a theory about the time frame for this movie.
Okay.
And how essentially they could be time traveling. So let me explain what I have heard. And it really makes a lot of sense. So the theory is that this movie is taking place over the entire run of Phase 5.
Okay.
This one movie.
Okay.
And so when this movie ends is when Avengers Kang Dynasty, the movie, begins. So Kang will not be in anything until Kang Dynasty. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you look back at the last Ant-Man and the Wasp movie when Scott gets trapped in the quantum realm. And then he returns in Endgame.
Right.
He spent, to his knowledge, 5 hours in the quantum realm, but it had been 5 years in the real world.
Right.
So an hour in the quantum realm is a year. If this movie plays out in real time, they've already released the time of this movie is 2 hours and 5 minutes. So, and what's scheduled 2 years from now? Avengers Kang Dynasty.
Exactly, yeah. That's pretty smart. It's pretty smart.
Do you think they would do that?
I don't put it past them.
Not have Kang in anything until between now and Kang Dynasty? If he's the next big bad?
Well, and I hate to, get my thoughts for a second. You can edit this part. There's two sides from I'm thinking, because one, it's like, well, that makes sense, because if you think about, the first, let's talk about Marvel from Iron Man to Infinity War. You really didn't have Thanos. He was hinted at, but you never really got Thanos until Infinity War.
You had a lot of teases of.
You had a lot of teasers, right? Yeah.
You had the end credit scenes.
Right.
You had that. Oh, I forgot the executioners, not the executioner. I forgot, from Guardians.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot
Kree.
his name. Yeah, the Kree guy.
Yeah.
Totally forgot his name, and it's really embarrassing right now.
I can see his face, but I can't think of his name either.
Yeah. That he was working for Thanos.
Right.
And there was all the references to Thanos. And so so there was build for Thanos.
Right.
There was all this build for Thanos.
Right.
Can you do that if Kang is trapped in the quantum realm all the way up until he becomes the bad guy in Kang Dynasty.
Yeah. Well, so that's my first argument is, well, they didn't really give us full Thanos until the end. But at the same time, that was so successful. I think Feige and Marvel are smart enough to know, well, we can't just duplicate what we did before. So what if we don't have, we do it this way, which it sounds cool. I mean, I will they do that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Even if they do, I would think they're still going to drop a few. There's going to be a few breadcrumbs and a few little, hints along the way between Ant-Man and Quantumania and Avengers Kang. What is it?
Kang Dynasty.
Kang Dynasty. So.
Then there's also...
But it's also, you also have the issue where, what we speculate oftentimes is totally opposite of what they end up doing.
That's what's fun about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's also, it's all going to end with Avengers Secret War.
Mm-hmm.
And so who's the bad guy for that? And could they be setting that bad guy up along the way?
Right.
Which a lot of people think that could be Doctor Doom. I'm a little skeptical about Doctor Doom coming in, especially pre-Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to wait and see. So that one aside, the other big theory or rumor or whatever you want to call it, or prediction, is does Scott die?
Yeah, see, I saw your post on when you posted the trailer, that first trailer on social media. You're like, this doesn't look good for Scott Lang.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I hadn't watched the trailer yet. Then I watched the trailer. I was like, ooh, I can see how it would seem that way. But I have to give it to the marketing. I don't think it is. But if it is, what is it setting up?
Yeah.
So what is it?
Well, I mean, it's setting up Cassie. And, because clearly Cassie's going to be a big part of this one because she gets sucked into the quantum realm with them.
Yeah.
And Cassie is stature in the comics. She has the ability to grow really big. Mm-hmm. Kind of taking her dad's powers. Yeah. Which they could also explain the quantum realm gives her that energy. Mm-hmm. They could explain it that way. So, I mean, the same way they're setting up all these other, I know we keep calling them like the young Avengers,
right,
but the same way they keep setting all of them up. I mean, this could be the way to pass the, Ant-Man mantle, even though she takes a different name, but passes the Ant-Man mantle over to Cassie.
Yeah, but do we have to kill off the original Avengers to do that? Granted, Captain America didn't die.
Yeah.
Thor is still around. Right now, we've only really lost Tony, but we did lose Black Widow. We lost.
Although, look, there's a rumor that Robert Downey Jr. is going to show up in Quantumania too, because of the whole time travel. The fact that in the quantum world, time doesn't really exist.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a lot out there. That's all these. Yeah, I don't know because there was you mentioned Captain America. I just heard this one the other day, and I didn't tell you we were gonna do this one, but you made me think. So there's a rumor that the old Captain America that showed up at the end of Endgame was not going to be played by Chris Evans. It was going to be played by Stan Lee.
Ah.
And that was what was going to explain why he was always there.
Oh, man, that would have been so good.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that would have been so good.
Because he was watching them the whole time. Yeah. Right. So it was going to explain why he was always there. So I like it. I don't think that was a real plan for them. I really don't. But I do like the thought.
Because when you think about it fully, yeah, it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Because he was always there for comedic effect. And Rogers wasn't that funny. He was unintentionally funny. Well,
even in what was the original Iron Man, where he's Tony actually calls him like Hugh because he's standing with all the beautiful women.
Yeah.
So Yeah, again, I don't think that was really the case, but when I heard it, I was like, oh, I kind of like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I kind of like that would explain why he was always there, because he's been watching them all these years.
Right. But wasn't there one cameo where he was like one of the Watchers?
They don't really say he was a Watcher, but he is talking to the Watchers.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and so there was a theory back then that maybe he is a Watcher.
Yeah, I remember that. That's what made me think about that theory, because I remember that scene. Like, wait, weren't they saying that's why you always saw that theory at that point? Why I always saw him as a different character, because he was one of the Watchers. So.
Yeah, and then I think it was it the second Guardians of the Galaxy, or was it maybe Captain Marvel, where he's he's like an alien character with all of the knives and drills and all that. I can't remember which one.
It wasn't Captain Marvel, because he was the guy on the the bus or the train in Captain Marvel. So
that's right.
I'm trying to remember what he was. It might have been Guardians too, because it was when they were on the planet or whatever, when the Ravengers were having their standoff with Stallone, the original.
Yeah.
Right. Was it? I
can't remember. I
haven't watched that one in a while.
All right, let's move on to another one that has come up recently. And so they are supposed to be filming pretty soon the new Daredevil for Disney Plus, the 18-episode series Daredevil Born Again. Great comic run, which they've already used elements of that. They used it in Daredevil a little bit in Daredevil season 2, and then a little bit more in Daredevil season 3, that when it was on Netflix. So I don't know how much they're going to actually do the Born Again storyline, especially because so much of it centers around Karen's character. And there's been no word of anyone other than Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox returning. So we don't know if we're going to get Karen or Froggy or any of them, or if they'll do. I know Charlie Cox has said in an interview that, you know, he whatever this might be, whether he's a variant or you know, the whole multiverse thing. So if they do the multiverse, maybe they do recast Karen and Froggy, and they're different actors. So I don't know how much they're going to do. But Kristen Ritter, who, if for those of you who don't remember, played Jessica Jones on the Netflix series, so from that same universe that Charlie Cox's Daredevil came from, she posted a picture on Instagram. It was part of one of her Instagram stories of her working out. And you would think nothing much of it, but she's wearing a Daredevil t-shirt. And so the speculations run wild. Is this an indication that she's getting into shape so that she can film? And this was November or December when she posted this. Okay. And they're supposed to start filming, like, I think this month, if not next month. So, of course, the rumor is she getting in shape to play Jessica Jones and appear in Born Again? So what do you think about them bringing the Netflix characters into the MCU? And do you think they will do it? Because there's also a small rumor, I haven't seen a lot to back this up, that even John Barenthal's Punisher is going to appear in Born Again.
Yeah, it's like, I remember the Kristen Ritter rumor maybe even before that picture, like when they first announced it. I remember D'Onofrio and Cox were definitely, but I do remember there being some speculation about Kristen Ritter returning. But I don't remember if it was associated with the picture or not. I think I would like it, because once again, it goes back to your point. If you're going to bring one or two back, then you kind of have to bring them all back, or you have to go with the. Do we want Finn Jones? No, we don't. That's the downside. It's like, I want to see Luke Cage. I want to see Jessica Jones. Mike Coulter was a great Luke Cage. Yeah, I want to see Froggy. I want to see all the other characters, but do not bring. Danny Rand, Iron Fist. Iron Fist. I'm Iron Fist, right? I'm the Iron Fist, right? Hey, did I tell you that was Iron Fist? Hey, guess what? I'm Iron Fist. That was like that whole series. But I like Kristen Ritter. I think I don't think they're going to be essential plot points. Like, I think they would be cool cameos for like short moments, but maybe not fully involved in this story they're going to tell. That's my prediction, is that, yeah, I think she may pop up, but I don't think she's going to be I don't think she's going to be a major role in the show. Whereas I think D'Onofrio and Cox will be primary. I mean, of course, Cox will be primary. But, D'Onofrio is definitely going to be more primary than Jessica Jones, even if Luke Cage makes a cameo and Finn makes a cameo. But
no. Again, let's do the whole variant thing and
find somebody else.
We'll get all of them but Finn Jones,
right?
And somebody else is now Danny Rand. And look, I'm not going to say anything bad against Finn Jones, but he was not good at playing Iron Fist. But there's also rumors that the character White Tiger, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but the character White Tiger would appear in it, and Jenny Ortega, Wednesday herself, would be playing White Tiger. There's that one. But yeah, I don't know. I would love to see the Netflix characters come back. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm iffy about Iron Fist, but you know what? I trust the Feige.
Right.
And so if anyone can make Finn Jones's Iron Fist work, it is Feige.
Mm-hmm.
So put all my faith in Feige. Let's get the Defenders and get a good Defender storyline going.
Right.
I don't care if it stays on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
If none of the rest of them, kind of like you're saying, if Daredevil's the only one that actually appears maybe in the movies, and the others stay on Disney Plus, for whatever they decide to do, whether they decide to go with individual series or they decide to go with like a Heroes for Hire, which I know there was rumor talking about that would come to Netflix,
right?
Or if they just do the Defenders, and I'd love to see John Barenthal's Punisher return.
Yeah.
He was a great Punisher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they finally got Punisher right with him, because there are 3 other actors that have not done well as the Punisher. So it was 4 as a charm for that one.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited, though, about Daredevil Born Again, whatever storyline they decide to take. Again, I don't know how much of the actual... Because, again, it has to... Kingpin's, of course, the main bad, but it has to do a lot with Karen. It has to do with a guy posing as Daredevil, which they did in season 3 with Bullseye posing as Daredevil. Although they didn't call him Bullseye, but clearly he was Bullseye. And Captain America, I know, plays a part in Born Again in the comics, so obviously that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know what storyline they actually will take, but I'm looking forward to that one, and I would be very happy with Kristen Ritter and John Barenthal and Mike Coulter.
Yeah.
And if we have to, Finn Jones returning there. All right, let's finish up. We're just going to keep this one short with this one shot. Let's finish up with, let's talk about what's going on at DC.
What is going on at DC?
Yeah, that's what the big question. No one knows. James Gunn took over earlier, or I guess right at the end of 2022, and there's been a lot up in the air about what he's going to do. They canceled, when Warner Brothers and Discovery merged, and we talked about this in a previous one shot. They started canceling things, and people were just going, "Wait, what are you doing?" Then there was all the stuff with Ezra Miller, with The Flash. So we've got Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods. We've got Aquaman 2, The Lost Kingdom. We have the Blue Beetle movie, and we have the Flash movie. That all 4 of those movies are either in post-production or they're already completed, just waiting to be released.
Right.
And of course, with Aquaman 2, we got all the Amber Heard stuff. With The Flash, we got all the Ezra Miller stuff.
Yeah.
With Shazam, we now have the fact that Black Adam not only bombed at the box office, but they've announced that's not going to continue.
Right.
So the chances of Black Adam Shazam getting together. So now Shazam's possibly at risk of this is the last Shazam movie.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got Blue Beetle, who we haven't been introduced to, or about to be introduced to. Does he play a part in whatever James Gunn's new idea for DCU? Then there's also Man of Steel, because they originally announced that he's going to bring back Cavill. Cavill was making the big announcement on social media. He's returning as Superman. They're going to make Man of Steel 2. And then all of a sudden, whoop, that was gone. That rug got pulled out from under us. And so, what are your thoughts about all this?
I'm very skeptical about Blue Beetle, because my thought is if they easily scrapped Batwoman or Batgirl.
Yeah, Batgirl.
Yeah. If they I guess easily is probably a term I probably should use. They scrapped Batgirl, which was very highly anticipated for whatever their reasons. We know the reasons have been varied on multiple sides. Mm-hmm. Blue Beetle, which we don't really know much about. There's been no trailers for. There's not been a whole lot of buzz really about it.
Yeah, a couple of set photos. I know is all I've seen.
I could see them dropping that without much backlash. I feel like
just making it a one and done.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Here's your Blue Beetle movie, and now you'll never see him again.
Right. I do think that Shazam 2 ends that run. I don't think Zachary Levi will return for that.
I know he's made some social media posts that sound like he's very upset.
Yeah. But I think he kind of already knows too that that's pretty much the end. That's the end of it. But as far as I'm trying to remember, because I think I read something recently where I know they talked about it on The Flash, where they've pretty much scrubbed all of the cameos from The Flash that would tie it to the other DCEU other movies. So making it as much of a standalone film as possible, which they kind of said they wish they kind of would have done with Black Adam, but of course not knowing what was going to happen at that point. Because Black Adam was really trying to be its own story, but still be tied to the universe.
Black Adam was there to make a bunch of plot holes. That's what Black Adam was there for.
So they don't want to make that mistake of releasing something that still has all these connecting points to other not franchises, but other characters that we're expecting to see later after this movie is over. So,
but I mean, other than the headless Superman cameo at the end of Shazam wasn't tied in anywhere.
No.
Like, there was no reference to anything other than Superman. But you put a different person in that suit, done.
Right.
And that's my thing with The Flash is because there's a lot of talk of they're going to do Flashpoint, and this is how they're going to reset everything. And, of course, that was before James Gunn took over.
Right.
So does James Gunn take this? And then is it fair? And here's really where I'm getting upset as a DC fan. Mm-hmm. So Cavill's out. Momoa's pretty much said that he's done with Aquaman, but he does want to return as Lobo, which anyone who knows Lobo, I mean, that's a match made in heaven right there.
Right.
We know Affleck is out. Obviously, Ezra Miller's going to be out after the Flash movie. Ray Fisher's been out for a while.
He was out before he was in.
Yeah, Ray Fisher's long gone. And then Gal Gadot's kind of in limbo because I know that Gunn made some sort of tweet talking about how, they were talking about he's cut everybody, including Gal Gadot, and he responded. He goes, "No one ever said that." So it's like, is Gal Gadot still Wonder Woman?
I think I have a feeling that he's probably the same thing with Momoa. He's going to use her for a different role. I think that's my speculation.
She's such a good Wonder Woman.
She is, though. Unless he, I don't know. I'll say unless he ties her into a newer version. Maybe Patty Jenkins is gone, but not Gal Gadot. I don't know. That's good.
Yeah.
Now you got me thinking about it. But
but
here's my question, though. Sorry, go ahead.
No, well, I was just gonna say. So my where I'm getting upset though is, so he's getting rid of all the Snyderverse stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Snyderverse is dead. Even though there was talk that WB should sell the Snyderverse to Netflix, and Netflix should do the Snyderverse while Warner Brothers and Discovery are doing their James Gunn. Yeah, I don't see that happening. But is it fair that Gunn is doing away with all of this, but he still has his version of the Suicide Squad?
Mm-hmm.
And he has Peacemaker, which is returning for a season 2 later this year.
Yeah.
Is that fair that he's keeping his stuff, even though his stuff is tied to it? Because the final episode of season 1 of Peacemaker, spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, features Momoa and Ezra Miller. And even though they're not really there, Superman, the Snyder Justice League.
Right.
They're in, so that is connected. So is it fair that he's keeping Peacemaker?
That's a good question, and I forgot about that last shot of Peacemaker. I think Peacemaker was too big of a hit for them to drop, but I could also see him backing himself, or painting himself out of that corner as well.
And again, there's so much that is up in the air about what the Flash movie will be able to do.
Yeah, and so that's what I was going to go back to. Is like, at this point, if you take out all the cameos and all the connectivity to the other DCU, do I even want to see the Flash movie now? Like, I was more excited about Michael Keaton being back as Batman than anything about the Flash movie, really. Yeah. So if they're going to take his cameo out, that took my interest level down a whole lot of notches. And I think that has a lot to do, and I hate to say it, that's a lot to do with Ezra Miller still being attached, because it's going to be hard to
look
at
past
this point
the person.
disassociate the actor from the character he's playing.
Yeah.
That's going to be very difficult to do.
Yeah, and then of course there's the fact that all other DC TV shows are done. Mm-hmm. We still have the HBO Max stuff that I haven't heard anything about. Titans, Doom Patrol. Mm-hmm. I know Doom Patrol is still supposed to return for the second half of its 4th season.
Right.
And I honestly lost track of Titans a couple of years ago. I haven't kept up with it. So we've got the HBO Max shows that are still going, which they're clearly in their own universe, because they've had their own Batman.
Right. Right.
So, but then you've got all the CW shows. Flash is returning for its final season, I think in March. Mm-hmm. And let me just throw this out, and we'll kind of wrap this up here.
Okay.
What do you think about the idea of Grant Gustin replacing Ezra Miller and actually becoming the movie's Flash?
I'm not against it, because I've always liked him as the Flash. Like, he was a big reason why I watched the show, as long as I don't watch it now, because it became too it's gone past its prime. Let's just put it that way. But he was a big part of why I watched it. I thought it was a really good Barry Allen and a good Flash.
But then your other option is, okay, we're done with Barry Allen. Let's move on, or Barry Allen. Let's move on to Wally West.
Yeah.
And just let's go to Wally West.
It's interesting. I mean, we're talking. I know it's we're talking about it, and the studio's looking at money, but it's hard for me as someone that they're making these movies for, to get excited about watching these movies that are continuations of a story that now you tell me
that it's no longer. Yeah.
Right. So it's almost like, do I really want it? It's like, I think I will watch them, but they have to know they're not going to be the box office draws that they were, now that we know they're going to start it from scratch.
There's nothing else. Yeah. There's nothing else to it.
Unless they're assuring us these movies are going to give a finality to these characters, so that we can, kind of thinking back to when Nolan's Batman, you knew Batman Begins, Dark Knight, you knew Dark Knight Rises, that was going to be the end of that trilogy. Mm-hmm. So you went in because you wanted to see how is he going to tie up the story. knowing that eventually another 2 or 3 years there's gonna be another Batman movie. So if they market it that way and give us kind of that, hey, this is the end of this story, that might be able to lure more into the seats than.
Yeah, but you're talking Shazam: Fury of the Gods has to already be done, considering it was supposed to come out like a year or so ago.
Right.
So do they go back and do reshoots, or there's no way that one's gonna be a satisfying conclusion to Shazam? And I almost want to say the same thing with Aquaman 2.
Yeah.
That one was supposed to come out just a couple of months ago. And then it got pushed back a whole year.
But maybe that's why they pushed it, because this, we find out about these decisions, but that doesn't mean that that's when they happen. Things have been in talks for a while, so they could have known before we. Of course, they knew before we knew, and so maybe that's why they pushed it back. And maybe they are doing reshoots and making some changes.
So even if they are doing reshoots, are they still working with Ezra Miller? And would they use him to do reshoots? Or is WB washed their hands of Ezra Miller, kind of like they have with Amber Heard?
Right.
Because
Ezra Miller's interesting. Well, I mean, look, we talked about it, and with movie magic. I mean, it's possible they could re-edit and reshoot at least the Flash, because if he's in the suit, it doesn't matter if Ezra Miller's in the suit for the most part.
Just then you have to go through the contract in a fine-tooth comb and making sure they have, because you're the 80s guy, especially after the whole Crispin Glover
with Back to the Future
sequels, as to what they can and cannot do in portraying Ezra Miller through other means. So it'll be interesting, but I'm looking forward to it. Again, we're I think less than a month or right at a month until Quantumania comes out, and then we start the superhero run of 2023 with all the stuff that'll be coming out this year. So it'll be fun to see what's happening. But we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Tim, you got anything you want to talk about in terms of the 80s Flick Flashback?
We started the year off pretty strong, I think. If you haven't listened to Laramy and I, our 2-parter crossover episode about Howard the Duck, definitely go check that out. That was a lot of fun. And then we just did Runaway Train, which is somewhat of a forgotten 80s flick.
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
From 1985 with John Voight and Eric
I saw
Roberts.
Your post and saw the pictures, and I was like, I've never seen this movie.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this movie.
It was a first-time watch for me, I'll be honest. But it's a good, wintry thriller, not really action. It's more of a drama, a little bit of thrilling parts at the end. But it was nominated for some Golden Globes and Academy Awards back then, so I thought it was good for award season to do one of those type of movies. But it was a fun one. And then for February, we're going to do some kind of, Ron and I are going to talk about An Officer and a Gentleman, which is, 2 guys talking about a romantic movie is going to be interesting for my show. But then for Black History Month, I'm going to do The Color Purple. My wife is going to join me, and I also got 2 special guests are going to join us for that episode as well. So that's going to be a really good discussion about The Color Purple. So look forward to those in February.
Exciting. Hitting a big one right there.
Mm-hmm.
Color Purple. Yeah, and stay tuned here on Moving Panels. Of course, we've got the Valentine episode coming up with Bethany and I. We'll reveal... I don't think I've revealed it yet. We already know what we're going to do, but we'll reveal it.
I know what you're going to do.
We'll reveal it pretty soon. Cause I don't think I've revealed it on the episode.
I think you did.
Yet.
I think you did it on my episode.
Did I? Okay.
Howard the Duck, yeah.
Well, then go listen to that and find out. But I'm not going to say it here just in case I didn't, because I can't remember if I did or not. And then we'll get into March with our March Madness, where we focus on one topic for the entire month. And we're doing Ghost Rider. And Tim is actually going to return that month to talk about Ghost Rider on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
The
non-Nicolas Cage
non-Nicolas Cage, yeah. the non Johnny Blaze version.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So completely different Ghost Rider. And hey, maybe we can have speculation there of, does that Ghost Rider return? Because you know what? I got more that's popping in my head because, you know, there's a rumor that Quake, that Daisy is going to return in...
really?
Yeah, in either Secret Wars or something. Yeah, that she's going to return.
Okay.
So we shall see. But we'll call it for this one shot. Tune in to the 80s Flick Flashback and tune in for us as we continue here on Moving Panels. And rate and review. Whoa, I just hit something on my phone. All right. That's where I was watching stuff to prep for our next episode that Tim's going to join me for. Tim and one of his friends, you've heard on this show before when we did the Batman, Ron West. I'm going to go ahead and talk about this. We're going to get together for an upcoming episode where we are going to talk about 80s comic book movies. And so we have been doing our research and watching through the wonderful 80s comic book movies.
Watching, sleeping, a little bit of both.
Yeah. Because that was right as they started. You know, we did Howard the Duck, and that was the first Marvel movie. There had been a couple of Superman movies before that, but there was a lot of others, and so we're going to talk about those. But we'll wrap it up for today. And so for Moving Panels, I'm Laramy Wells, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and listen to an 80s Flick Flashback podcast once in a while, you could miss it. Do you love movies of a certain age? Do you miss the days of VHS tapes, VCRs, and the video rental stores? Does the thought of another 80s movie being remade seem inconceivable? My name is Tim Williams. I'm the creator and host of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. On each episode, I'm joined by guest co-hosts to discuss one of the many movies released in the 1980s. We share our first-time watch memories, our favorite scenes, and even learn some behind-the-scenes stories about the cast and crew along the way. New episodes are released every other Friday on your favorite podcasting platform. So make like a tree, get out of here, and go listen to an excellent episode of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. The ad is over. Go home. Go.